Hey everyone, welcome back to Black on the Platform Live, where we spotlight Black entrepreneurs, authors, and leaders who are moving the culture forward and making wellness, wealth, and wisdom more accessible to our communities. I'm your host, Jen S., founder of Black on the Platform, your go to directory and community for Black owned businesses. If it's your first time joining us, please drop your name in the chat and let us know where you're tapping in from. And to our returning viewers, welcome back. We see you, we appreciate you, and we're so glad you're part of this movement. So, tonight is going to be powerful because we're not just talking about money this evening, we're talking about legacy, we're talking about family, we're talking about dynastic wealth. And this guest is not new to the platform. Howard Douglas III is a returning guest and a Power Networking team member who has continued to do the work. I had the opportunity to attend his first Dynastic Wealth session, and I didn't come alone. I brought half the Power Networking team with me, and that's what we do here at Black on the Platform. We are a family, and we support one another. Welcome, Errol. Errol was there for our first session as well. So, Howard's dynastic wealth approach is a curated experience that meets individuals and families where they are on their journey, offering practical solutions to help them move to the next level with clarity and confidence. So, I want you all to give some shout outs in the chat as we welcome Howard back. It is truly a pleasure to have you on the platform this evening. Please say hello to our.
Good evening. Good evening to everybody. Thank you, Jen, for having me back. Thank you.
It is my pleasure. So glad to be able to talk with you. So let's start here. You chose the words dynastic very intentionally. What does dynastic wealth mean to you beyond building income?
Yeah, so dynastic wealth to me means, you had it pictured or framed, correctly in your introduction, right? It means legacy. And when I think of dynastic, I think of, you know, not just tens of years, but hundreds of years, and thinking about succession and stewardship. So when I recently, selected that specific term is in order to trigger, a certain psychological effect to help us think about, the next generation from a longer vantage point, a longer point of view, and to think about stewardship and intentionality.
I get that vision. So your intention was met because when I think of dynastic, I think of dynasty and wealth. And so definitely it hit with that. So you recently launched, and as I mentioned, many of
Mhm.
the family here, the Power Networking team, shout out to Errol and Omari, who are also in the viewing audience. Um, yeah, we appreciate the love. I just wanted to say that, you launched it. What made this the right moment to bring this to families? Why now?
Yeah, so for me, I always had, I want to say, the right intentions or the right posture. However, I I was trained to, to work a certain way as a financial professional. And, I went through a set of experiences and made some observations along with just continuous self-development. And I was thinking internally about what is a better approach, because I'm seeing a lack of synchrony within households, and people are well intended. However, their behaviors do not follow the words that they even speak. I'm not seeing that in practice. So the intention of, kind of reformatting and creating a completely different experience, a completely holistic experience, is really to not only give people information and not only do planning, which those are effective services, but to really retrain behavior and our own thought patterns for the purpose of for sustainability over a longer time period and being more intentional about it.
Yes, I love it, and it's an honor and a privilege to have you be part of the Power Networking team. I say at the intro of every podcast that
Mhm.
we are moving the culture forward and making wellness, wealth, and wisdom more accessible
Yes.
to our communities. And you are doing that exact thing. And you talk about empowering households, not just
Yes.
individuals. And so, can you speak a little bit? I know you're saying about sustainability, but why is the family centered financial education so critical right now? And I agree that it is. I just want your
Mhm.
perspective.
Yes. So what I see today, right? And I think that there's been fantastic, amazing steps, thankfully, for the internet and social media, and information is more accessible than ever. You could put a bunch of stuff into Google, AI, all that kind of stuff. And I see fragmented, incomplete information. I see useful information, but then what is practical and implementable as well. And I see great tactics and well speakers. However, what I believe to be missing, especially for speaking to this particular audience, the Black on the platform audience, is really bringing that wholeness and togetherness and unlearning this for lack of a better words, American conditioning of thinking as individuals, and hopefully over the course of time, begin thinking, in unity amongst our own family members, whatever that looks like. We all got our own situations, but that's essentially, the purpose to bring us together, and because we're more powerful when we come together, right? If you want to go fast, there's a very famous proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. And we can go fast. Let's go fast. But if you want to go far, then it's going to take a team effort, more collaboration, more hands on deck, more brains on deck, more capital on deck, and so on.
And I use that African proverb on one of my family meetings to start the meeting. And it is so true. We are all in isolation, but when we're together, we're
Mhm.
stronger. And I totally agree. I was fortunate enough to attend your first session, and what stood out to me in your session was the emphasis on leadership within the family structure
Mhm.
and how, so I'm curious if you can share with some of our viewers, what does leadership inside the household actually look like in practical terms? And how would, well, I'll let you answer that first and then
Mhm.
see. Yeah.
Yeah. So how I would define leadership within a household would be, you know, first step is self-awareness and reflection, right? And thinking about, where am I at? What is my mentality? What is my situation? What are my emotions? What decisions have I made in the past that have affected me up to this point, and so on. And to begin thinking about, purpose and plan and my true values, and to be really thoughtful about how I'm showing up as a husband and as a father. And so for me, it's about, number one, becoming aware, but then number two is being thoughtful and putting together a plan that's centered around my values, and then the third is executing on it, being a man of, my word, not being afraid of discomfort, whatever that may be, right? That sometimes that is telling yourself no. Sometimes that's telling your partner no. Sometimes that's telling your kid no, right? Sometimes that means waking up a little bit earlier, right? Sometimes that means taking care of your body and your mind, right? So for me, it's about action, in action and discipline and showing up. If you do those things with intention and purpose, then to me, that's exhibiting leadership qualities, and then everything else kind of builds from there if you have quality values.
I love that, and it aligns so well with the Black on the Platform ideology around, the dimensions of wellness, because we're not in isolation. We can't just work on our health and not work on our wealth. We can't work on our
Mhm.
health and our wealth and not work on learning new skills and intellectual, wellness, and so each part, whether it's spiritual, social, they
Mhm.
all require focus and attention and discipline, and that's why I feel like Black on the Platform is a great space for people who need any aspect of their wellness, the many needs that we have as diverse and complex individuals. And I love that you have set an example even with your own family. I know that one of your sons was learning entrepreneurial skills and learning how to do those are the type of things, it's like literally practical terms. We're not just talking about
Mhm.
what it looks like. We're implementing on micro scale levels. And so I think your
Bullseye.
your clients are really fortunate because you're able to give them some of the experience that you
Yes.
gained through all of the knowledge that you've taken on and the application of that. So I think that's wonderful. And you've made it clear that this isn't just for wealthy families. You know, we're not
Yes.
all rolling in the dough. It's for families at different stages of their journey.
Absolutely.
So how does your approach with this really help people that maybe aren't very financially savvy? You know, how does this approach differ from base traditional financial planning? It sounds to me very holistic and like all
Yes.
encompassing, but I want to let
Yes.
you answer.
Yes. So I think that's a great transition. Um, what I always felt an internal friction with what's going on today, along with the incentive, the financial compensation structure of being a financial advisor, right? The traditional path is you get your clients, however you get your clients, and essentially you want to figuratively go up market, what have you, and work with progressively wealthier people. And I think that's fine. I think that's good for people that are in the business for the right reasons, right? But in terms of bringing it down to application for all people, right? Quality structure and coaching at least should be available for more people that are capable and willing, that might be priced out from a traditional financial advising experience. So in terms of some of the different things that we do, we get involved in, financial coaching alongside financial planning and investment management. And depending on your your level of wanting to be involved in terms of being hands-on, or your capacity to do so, or even just this life stage that you're at, right? Depending on if you got student loans, you're buying your first house, or whatever it is, I wanted to come up with a structured way to where there's multiple pathways that has a that like I just mentioned, it has a structure that you could essentially kind of progressively step into, when you're ready and capable and wanting to do more. So yeah, we essentially just want to meet people where they're at and give them as much value as possible. And essentially, when they're ready to step it up the next notch, then that's what we want to do, right? We don't want to we don't want to hoard everything, and we don't want to push away everybody that wants to do better for themselves.
That's great. I have family members in my family where, you know, they want to start somewhere. They don't always know where to begin. They
Mhm.
see me doing option trading and talking about all the things we're learning from Dr. Boyce and Errol, and I'm like at a loss sometimes where to begin. And some of those family members are sometimes in survival mode where they don't
Hmm.
have a surplus of funds, where they can't necessarily, borrow from Peter to pay Paul because Peter
Yes.
they ain't got nothing for Peter either.
Hmm.
So I'm interesting if we can like think about the mindset of people in
Yes.
in what's the first maybe mental shift before any real application comes forth, that someone might need to make if they want to move from the survival mode to this
Yes.
thought process of building legacy.
Yes. So just to honor those people, right? I personally have been there, right? So, I know firsthand, what that feels like in terms of being in survival mode. And, granted, this is, somebody that is, an entrepreneur that is working in finance. And I have been in survival mode before. So I can relate from that perspective. Um, I would say that the circumstance does not, that does not, that's not who you are as a person for one, right? You have inherent value within you that has at least yet to formulate in a financial from a financial perspective, just yet. So that's number one. But aside from that is obviously you want to, grow your income, but from a mindset perspective is, to give yourself, grace, right? To be strategic, try your best to get into rooms that can help accelerate the process, right? Sometimes it's not about what you know, but it's about who you know. Because if you got stuff that you know, but you're not in the right environment, well, then it's going to be difficult for you to, take that next step up and so on. So in terms of mindset, it's one, not giving up, right? Not throwing yourself a party, taking ownership of, where you're at, and that's completely fine. But then thinking about becoming, that person that you visualize yourself being. And if you do things consistently enough, and hopefully you're in the right rooms, then hopefully you can take some progressive steps.
I
And
love
I'm
that.
rooting for you. If you're out there, I'm rooting for you.
I love how you took a moment. You remind me so much of your wife, Jasmine, with that. You took a moment to just honor the people that are in that space and validate the fact that we've all been there at some point.
Hmm.
Or I won't say everyone. Many of us have been in that survival mode at some point, and it is a heightened level of intensity that doesn't really allow for you to absorb new knowledge or new information because you're just trying to make
Hmm.
it. So
Hmm.
I really love that you took a moment to just, you know, give respect to those in that situation. Um, and there are people who definitely will, come in at a different a different mindset than somebody else who maybe has less than them, but they're just not internalizing it in the same way. So it's not even about the dollar, it's more
Yes.
about the mindset. And I just love that you
Yes.
brought that out. I wanted to add that your dynastic wealth approach is a perfect opportunity for people who are at any stage in the game,
Yes.
and you're not your impact is not just as a traditional financial advisor, but it's connecting wealth to relationships and trust. And really,
Yes.
I mean, so I want to ask you so that you can tell the viewing audience,
Yes.
why is relationship, or I'll say relational health, just as important as financial strategy when building dynastic wealth?
That's a powerful question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, I love it. Um, so when we think about relationships, relationships are currency, literally, right? From if you are in business, having a relationship with your customer psychologically in order for them to buy your product or service, in order to, to do that transaction to earn some revenue, it takes a relationship. In order to find a spouse, or in dealing with a spouse, or applying for a job, or recruiting a friend to maybe, participate in a business endeavor. It's all relationships. Every time somebody is accepted in, accepting or applying for a job opportunity, there's another human on the other side of it. So from a relationship and a wealth building standpoint, that is key. Relationships are absolutely key to growing and protecting your wealth, right? If you lack a quality relationship, well, then that could mean that there is a gap within, something that could be going on. If you're not a good listener, right? If you're not giving people space to communicate the things that they need to communicate, and vice versa, right? Or maybe the person you're dealing with is not listening to you, right? Communication and relationships are absolutely key to building wealth, right? It has everything to do with building and retaining wealth and growing and expanding it, right? All of A whole lot of it is relationships, wisdom, and discipline, for sure.
Excellent. And I have two things to share. One is that I was just having this conversation with somebody today about the fact that when somebody gives you their opinion or guidance on something and you feel like they don't even know me to be coming at me like that, you
Mhm.
don't value, even if it's golden, the
Mhm.
wisdom that they're imparting. You're like, you don't know me like that to tell me about me. But when you have somebody who's maybe an elder who you respect and you
Mhm.
value what they're
Yes.
that relationship is
Yes.
key to receiving this golden
Yes.
information. So I think you really hit upon it there. The second thing I wanted to add is that you have a Baba in your family, Baba,
Yes.
and I have
Yes.
a Baba in my family, and my Baba is in the chat, just letting me know that she's here. And I just think, her wisdom and what she shares with me is so valuable to me because of the relationship that we've had throughout my life. And so I think like our elders come with such wisdom, and if we have relationships with them, then they can impart that wisdom. But if we don't
Yes.
have strong relationships, then they can't impart that wisdom. So I think
Yes.
that relational health piece is super huge. So I didn't know if you wanted to respond to anything I said, but
Oh, no, no. I mean, that's a absolute bullseye. You couldn't have said it any better. Um, Relationships are key. Relationships are leverage, right? Relationships are opportunities. Um, so yes, no, one wonderful question, and relationships are absolutely key. What value are you bringing to relationships? What is your posture, right? What's the goal in mind, etc. So yes.
so you're tying social wellness with financial wellness,
Mhm.
and it's a beautiful thing to see. I think it's even bigger than we realize. It means longevity in our lives. When research studies have shown that relationships are what keep people alive. And so just knowing that, it's like we're not just investing in our pocketbook, we're investing
Cool.
in ourselves when we invest.
Yes.
So, and I'm going to
Yes.
drop your link while we're talking. If you
Boom.
want to learn more about Howard's dynastic wealth approach, here's the link. You can go through his listing on Black on the platform. It'll take you right to his page. But I'm really want to dig deep into this conversation about the impact we have through relationships.
Yes.
And I ask, how does this work expand beyond the individual families that we maybe have relationships into a community impact, like in terms of your vision and your approach? It's not just isolation, you're talking
Yes.
about a bigger impact. Can you expand on that?
Yes. So this intention has always been in my heart, right? However, I didn't have I won't say the create. It just didn't formulate in my mind just yet in order to begin pulling this off. And where we're at right now is like almost like embryo stage compared to where we're going, because we're going places, very far places over the course of time. Um, Now, in terms of tying in community, so a couple of things. One is obviously we want to have a large impact, right? That is, that's why you have the Black on a platform itself, right? Is to spotlight predominantly small Black business owners, for good reasons. But aside from that, like on an individual level, as a participant and then also as a advisor or coach in a situation, it allows the opportunity for peer-to-peer intergenerational learning in a space of like-minded people that have a more than likely common goals, right? Just being a African American financial advisor, I am organically going to likely have more so African American clients for the most part, right? Everybody is not going to be the same, but just being able to curate a space to where we can meet each other, we can be there for each other, we can support each other, we can hear another person's story. Somebody is going through something similar, identical, different. Maybe there's places where we could impart some wisdom or some knowledge or some experience. Maybe there is a referral or a partnership or a friendship, something new that can be created in this particular space. So one is on an individual level, it brings a level of fulfillment or perhaps some wholeness, right? Some healing. um but then, because to your point, like you've been bringing up, a lot of times in this day and age, we are we're veering more and more towards isolation, which that's a separate talk. But that is one important element. And then number two is, this is just a common, this is just my personal belief, and I believe it's common among other progressive thought leaders, is when we have stronger households, when we have stronger families, then that's going to rise the tide for all of us, right? I don't have the exact statistics. Maybe somebody could pull this up on Google. Maybe if you want to ask Google Gemini, go knock yourself out. um, but if we look at our community, we really don't own a lot of businesses per se, right? Um, and how I my thought process, my belief system is, if we, create stronger, emotionally healthy households, and we're building, not only human capital, but financial capital as well. Well, then now we can start, initiating more power plays, which then, has a trickle down effect and affects the community at large. However, we got to just start with where we're at, right? That's why there's a lot more Black entrepreneurs than established business owners, just because of where we're at today. So we have to get started where we're at today. And to be honest with you, we need a grassroots movement, just like how we're getting to it today. So, great question.
Yeah, and you and Jasmine are just such a beautiful yin and yang, because she brings that spiritual wellness, and you bring that financial wellness. You both bring that intellectual wellness. I mean, it's beautiful to work with the pair of you. And one thing you brought up about made me think about a conversation I have with a guest that's coming on in a couple weeks. And I spoke with him today, and it was great to know that he was part of the, Dr. Boyce community. He's part of the like-mindedness of what you're speaking on, really does a nonprofit, wanting to give back to our community.
Mm.
And I find that, there's people who want to come on the podcast, or have asked for me to allow somebody they know to come on the podcast. And I said to the gentleman today, it's not an exclusive space. I'm not going to
Yeah.
exclude people, but I am intentionally curating the space so that it is of like-minded. Because if I'm partnering you with somebody else, I want to know that it's going to be a good fit, and we're thinking about the same goals in mind. And I think that collaboration doesn't it won't grow the way it could if you weren't from the same mindset and the same focus. And so I think you're spot on with that approach with the dynastic wealth approach. And so I'm curious, Howard, personally, what
Yes.
legacy are you building through this work for yourself? I know you said you were called to it. So can you
Yes.
talk about that?
Yes. So, the dynastic wealth, for myself, how I view it is, it's an ever going thing, right? And we're gonna be doing the work regardless of what particular stage that we're at. So from a personal perspective, obviously, we're doing our own investing and financial planning and so on. But one thing that we're intentional about, Jasmine and I are intentional about, other than just supporting each other's business and supporting each other's endeavors, is really being intentional about investing into our children, right? And there's all types of investments. We could talk all about them, but how are we investing into the minds and the experiences with our children? We got to be still mindful while we're out here, hustling, trying to grow businesses and supporting each other. How are we curating our own household? So some of those investments might be, paying for private school at a detriment where, hey, I'm like, hey, you know what, this I could grow this capital over here for personal financial reasons. However, I'm thinking about my child, and I'm going to pay for his education, because to me this is a more important investment that to me has an even better ROI on it, right? Another perspective of investing is investing into experiences, investing into quality of time, right? Which ties into that relationship factor, right? If you have all the money in the world, however, you haven't had positive experiences with your child, or all they remember is you being at work and you really don't care and so on, how can we expect for them to to honor our relationship, something that ties back in to what you said earlier with the elders? So in terms of our own dynastic wealth approach, we have our financial investments, we have our family values, our family goals and so on. However, we're also thinking about how we spend our time, with our children, and in what environments are we intentionally placing them into. And if we can't control everything, how can we steward outside of some of the choices that we do have?
Absolutely. And it is not easy to sacrifice certain things for your kids sometimes, and that I think takes discipline in and of itself, especially when it requires funds, whether it's for private school
Hmm.
or extracurricular or trips here or
Oh
there.
yeah,
So I
absolutely.
think it takes planning and intentionality. And so with the dynastic wealth approach, you're offering an experience where they can learn about how to implement that. And I really want viewers, especially those who may be interested in taking advantage of this opportunity with you, if you can speak to, I'm not sure, well, pretty much about the different options. I think, is there like
Yes.
what the pack, like if you want to talk about it a little bit for our viewers to know, or to whatever level you
Yes.
want to speak on it. Okay.
Yes. 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 So, um, it's very funny you asked that. So, as I like kind of recurated, right? I've been in the financial services business my whole professional career, going on 10 years, roughly. Um, and after I recreated some stuff, I sent out this huge signal, and the signal was very powerful, because I got some nibbles from some very cool nibbles. I'll say that, right? It's very early stage stuff. But I decided, you know what? Let me take one step back a little bit, but I still have the offerings overall. But essentially, we want to we want to offer, a bespoke, very curated experience, and we'll meet you specifically where they're at. I know that sounds a little bit vague, but really to be more specific, is we have several options, right? But it's not meant to be transactional, right? It's meant to be to meet you where you're at specifically, right? So we have a group financial coaching platform, which we've alluded to, several times, through this meeting, and then we have financial planning and investments, and then we have other, dare I say, perks or other benefits that come along with the services, right? Outside of building new relationships, we want to be intentional about curating spaces, right? And sometimes that might be making certain introductions. Maybe that's introducing information that you will probably not get from a traditional financial advisor, right? A nibble of that might be, some stuff that deals with, how to buy a small business, for example, right? Most traditional financial advisors, they're going to stick to, doing a financial plan with you, and then, open up a Roth IRA, which that is absolutely fine. That's great. However, there are, levels, and there are other opportunities outside of, what's available for most of the public, right? And sometimes we just don't know about this stuff. So in addition to those offerings, is we want to try our best to upskill you. We want to empower you, and we want to give you all of the resources available as much as you desire and that you hunger for your own reasons and your own purpose. We want to give that to you at a mutually beneficial arrangement, and we want to partner with you for a very, very, very long period of time. How I view this is we may meet on this particular entry point, but the goal is longevity, right? So that's how we view this. Everybody is different. We'll meet you where you're at, and we have a structure that can that will guide you along through the process.
I love that. I think it's so important that people know, I'm on LinkedIn a lot. So I saw a recent post about an experience for like companies if they have 20 plus million. And I was
Mhm.
like, that doesn't include me. I'm a new business owner. And yet I want to be part of that conversation and I
Mhm.
want to be in those rooms. And I think it's beautiful that you're opening up the room to people at any level, at any, space, they can gain something from this. I had a cousin who wanted to get into the stocks with me, and
Mhm.
I just took $30 and invested on one stock so that she could have that experience
Yes.
of that. And so I love that you're offering not a course, you're offering an experience that can be then passed on to the next generation, and they'll have the tools and the resources and be
Boom.
equipped for economic empowerment. And so
Boom.
I think it's a wonderful offering. And if you haven't already seen it, I'm going to drop it again. Hey, Mr. Riley, I'm going to drop it in the chat here. And if you want to reach out to Howard and find out more about the dynastic wealth approach and his offerings, please do that. I think you would be foolish to miss out on this opportunity if you passed it up, because he is a plethora of information around economic empowerment. And I thoroughly enjoyed the session that I attended, and I look forward to more. Um, I want you to continue to elevate the conversation for and create something that helps families think bigger, plan
Yes.
smarter, and
Yes.
lead intentionally. So before we wrap for this evening, do you have any parting words or words that you want to share with our viewers? Or if the viewers have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Um, but yeah, tell us your closing remarks.
Yes. First of all, if you stuck with us, for this 40 minutes, thank you. Um, I wouldn't say there's any specific magical words, right? At the end of the day, just about, us doing the work, recognizing where we're at, what are our goals, what are our values, what do we want for ourselves, what do we want for our partners, our kids, our family, our community. And let's rally around that with purpose and discipline regardless where you're at. So, I can't, I don't know where everybody's at. I don't know who's all viewing this, but let's champion, let's take on, let's take on our armor, and let's gather our troops, right? Let's gather our team of individuals, and let's accomplish big things together. And if you found value in just this interview session, right? This conversation that Jen and I have had, please, check out the website. We are accepting, clients. We'll be honored to partner with you, right, and meet you where you're at on your journey. And thank you again, Jen, for sharing your platform. And
My
yeah,
pleasure, Howard.
thank you so
So
much.
I
Appreciate you.
appreciate you. I don't want to end
Yes.
without sharing with the viewers, and I hope I'm not misspeaking when I say this, that it is the current package that's available. It can be for maybe a husband and wife who want to
Yes,
come in together.
yes,
So
yes,
I didn't
yes,
want to
yes, yes.
leave without letting you speak to the fact that you
Yes,
really
yes,
are
yes.
family driven, and it's just, so do you want to
Absolutely.
let the viewers know about that?
Absolutely. Yes. So there are different privileges, what have you, if you were to want to participate on a certain level. So, and that's the whole purpose, is to incentivize into bring these uncomfortable, sometimes uncomfortable conversations to the forefront in order to address them and then build new financial muscle. So, in addition to some of the planning, sessions and all that kind of stuff, is if I were to just give you a little bit more context and color for the at least the coaching part of the platform, is regular monthly conversations where we are talking about every relevant personal finance topic, whether that's dealing with programming of the mind and financial behavior, to goal setting, to investments, retirement, insurance, how you should view and approach these things. There's case studies involved, estate planning, a family business primer. I have, on the back end. So the whole point is to have a progressive system that layers the education, that because I don't want to just spill a bunch of tactics at you. It's really about the internal work first, building the foundation, and then as you're ready to continue developing, giving you the information and the resources on a progressive level as you are more prepared for that stage of the journey. So thank you, Jen, for having me expand on that just a little bit more.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and
y'all got a little bit of a peek.
and not just the fact that
Yes.
you have your offering, but it isn't a week long course or 6 week
No.
course. Sometimes they have these courses for the same ticket price, where they do it in this little compact time and expect you to absorb all this information and apply it, but you're really doing like a year long process that
Yes.
allows you to grow incrementally along the way. And I think
Yes.
it is a opportunity for a mindset shift that's necessary to make
Yes.
this sustainable. And I
Yes.
also agree with the way that you're approaching it, where you're hitting people where they're at. You're not like, come to this and become this within
Mhm.
this time. You really are curating it. And I love that. I find it's difficult to reshape our mindset and shift it. So for me, I do like I make songs on Murica, and I've shared them with Jasmine. They're really nice. I'll have to share some with you. They talk about like their affirming statements of wealth, and one of the songs that I wrote says, my energy is my currency,
Mm,
and my calm is my
mm,
crown.
mm,
And these type of things that we can just start to internalize and
mm.
apply, they don't happen overnight. It
No.
takes repetition. It takes support systems. It takes that, so you're giving that through this dynastic wealth approach. You're
Yes.
offering support system, you're offering mindset shifts, you're offering so much. And so I really encourage our viewing audience to take advantage of the opportunity. So if you're watching tonight and you know your family deserves structure,
Come on.
strategy,
Come
and
on.
real legacy
Come on.
planning, this
There
is
we
the
go.
time. This is the time right now. So I'm going to drop in the chat once again the link to check out Howard's dynastic wealth approach. And Howard, it has been a true honor to have you back on the platform this evening. Please give my love and regards to
Yes.
Jasmine and the boys and
Yes.
Baba and the whole family, because you guys are family. And I know you mentioned it in your own session that we didn't know that we were family amongst family. The connection,
And
the
we did
world
not
is
know.
like so small, 6 degrees of separation, right? So
Yes.
I
Absolutely.
I appreciate you, and thank you for being here.
Yes. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate you.
I
All right.
appreciate you. I'm gonna send you back to the back while I do my outro. All right, family. So you know what it is. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a powerful story. If you're ready to share your own story, visit blackontheplatform.com to join our growing community of Black owned brilliance. And I'm Jen S., your concierge of connection, reminding you that visibility creates opportunity, and we're here to help you shine. Until next time, say it with me: stay bold, stay Black, and always stay building. Take care, family.